Hello and welcome to the River Cruising Masterclass. I am so excited you are here with us today and welcome back from the craziness of the holidays. Today, depending on when you're listening to me this morning, who knows? I am recording this at 9 o'clock at night because that was the only moment I had a free time and I was like, I am recording this episode. I wanted to give my highlights, updates, and review of the Riverside Luxury Cruises on the Rhone. Now, this is not my review as the top 15 cruise lines. This is my honest review of Riverside on the Rhone. Now, before I get into the details, let me just stage the story, right? Let me just give the high-level overview. Riverside Luxury Cruises is without question I think it is the most luxurious cruise line that they have on the rivers, unless you're going private and renting your own boat. And if you can do that, I want you to, and I also want you to call me to help you do it so you don't have to deal with the contracts. But easily distracted. The ship carries 120 guests, and that is at max capacity. Whereas Viking is going to carry 190, and Amawaterways is going to have 150 people on board. And this is on their normal ships, right? So this is comparing apples to apples, sizes of ship. That is how many less people they are covering. 70 people when we're talking about Viking, and 30 when we're talking about Amawaterways. And this means that they also are operating at near 2-to-1 guest to staff ratio. So there is 64 staff members to 120 at max capacity clients. So the level of service shows everywhere. And one of the standout perks, and something that I absolutely loved, is the fact that there is a 0 single supplement on the first 5 entry-level cabins on each sailing. What that means is that solo sailors can cruise at the same price as a double occupancy, which is super rare in cruising in general, right? Because they've priced how they're going to make money based on 2 people being in each room. So, and to make that even better, on the Rhine and the Rhone, the entry-level rooms is French balconies. So if you are solo, Riverside is where it's at, because if you book early enough in advance. On the Danube, they have the cruise line, which is the Mozart, and that is entry-level, but it is such a big room. So big, because the Mozart is actually a double wide, and the only double wide, if you have done any research on river cruising, that you hear a lot about is the Ama Magna, which is with Amawaterways. But the Mozart is almost like a sister ship to it, and I think it carries like 50 people less than the Ama Magna does. But that one, the entry level is going to be 2 double windows, like big windows. If you saw my Facebook, it's not the little tiny portholes you get in the normal room categories. So that is just something to think about when you're looking at Riverside. Now, let's talk about like the ship and onboard experience, because that is pure luxury. Riverside delivers on all fronts like that. They have a true butler service for every cabin, and the butler don't double as wait staff. That is a true butler service. On some of the other cruise lines, the butlers do double duty on jobs, which means that they aren't really being able to handle that thing. And those are people that you can ask them to do room service at any time of night. You can help them, they can help you with like unpacking your luggage if you needed help with that. If you had random questions throughout the day, you can ask them about it and they will be able to facilitate it. They give you a WhatsApp number and they have a cell phone on them at all times. On the ship, they have a spa, a pool, a fitness center. Now, I will tell you, the pool is an indoor pool. Which, like it or don't like it, I debate it. If I do pools, I usually like to be like laying out by the pool, but for a winter cruise and just to like hang out, it is a nice location. They have 2 dining venues and 24/7 dining available, which is also unheard of on river cruising. Room service whenever you want it. They had set times for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the main dining room. They have something called the vintage room if you want to do a private 7-course meal with wine pairings. They also have a like just cafe area where they still make everything from scratch. They had this pasta bolognese that I ate almost every day at like 2 p.m. because I took a nap during lunch. And I still think about it. It was so good. Plus, everything on board is made in-house. And I mean everything. So simple syrups for cocktails, fresh pastas, sauces, specialty drinks. Like anything that you could be like, oh, I wonder if they're getting that from a can. They're not. They're making it. I literally watched the bartenders like start making the lavender syrup for the lavender martinis that they were doing that night for a special. The level of intricacy and detail was just absolutely insane, and it's something you can only do if you have such a high staff ratio to be able to support that sort of thing. That's another place where Riverside, I think, completely stands out is the food. I was told that they spend double the cost per person on food than Ama Waterways does, and I believe it. I did Ama Waterways, I did Riverside, and I can see the different details. So for example, like one night we had this half lobster dish where it's like they cut the lobster in half, put all of these like spices and things like that, served it with the claw and everything. I think I have a photo. I actually just did a reel of like some of my food posts on the Riverside. Phenomenal. I think you should look it up. As I talked about before, they had the fresh made pasta spaghetti bolognese that I ate almost daily. Fresh pasta, fresh sauce. I also had it with french fries because who is not a carby girl when they're in the French countryside, okay? Sue me. Don't sue me. Don't sue me. Let's be real. I don't know who's listening to this, and if you're a lawyer, please don't sue me. But like all of those little details, those touches, those special things are things that I thought were absolutely amazing when it came to the food. It was every night they had a specialty butter, and like they had like a garlic and herb, and then they had like a paprika butter, they had like a curry butter. They had so many unique butters to try every night for dinner, and it was so fun. We left super early on the last day because we wanted to get to Paris as soon as we could, and they're like, oh well, we'll make you a little to-go thing, and I was like, could I just get the leftover butter from tonight and you can put it in there? And so they actually made a fresh butter that was specific to us and put it in our little packs for breakfast. And so just those pieces are things that you wouldn't get on another cruise line. Well, you could. You probably could get that, but it was just the idea that you could. None of the other cruise lines that I had specialty, had all of these like homemade specialty butters. So something to think about on that front. Now, excursions. So the excursions are elevated and thoughtful. They do excursions a little differently. They add a little depth to some of them, or they provide little extras. So when we were on our Rhone River cruise, when they did a tour, they also added like a gelato stop. So we all got, ice cream included in the cost. They do the basic walking tours, and then they'll do things like in Vienne, do the shuttle up to the top and kind of do a walking tour down. They have an active one if you want to hike up the mountaintop, and then they also have one which was going to a what are those things called? Museum for artwork and things like that you could do. And so that is definitely something you can do. And then another one, which is something that you'll see on more of the luxury cruise lines, an exclusive experience. Scenic does it, Uniworld, Tauk, Riverside. Yes, I think that's it. Yeah. They do these things called exclusive experiences. So let me set the stage for you, okay? It's the last night of the cruise, because that's just where it hit on this trip, right? It's the last night of my cruise, because it was the second night for some other people and the first night for others. We are going to this exclusive winery at the Chateau de Papel, and we've walked around the grounds. We've seen how beautiful it is. It's just amazing how old everything is, like 1200, things of that nature. We're going down to go wine tasting. Everything is dark, completely dark, as we're walking into this cave to do our wine tasting. And as the door opens, the lights flick on, and a violin starts playing. And it was so romantic. I felt like I was in Bridgerton. All of the songs were like our new songs played classically, very Bridgerton style, to be truthfully honest. It was like this the entire tasting. she did take a break while they were giving the historical piece of this, because this chateau is so cool. In the early 1200s, the Pope actually had a castle at the Chateau de Papel, had the chateau there, and to make money at the chateau, had grapes, and so they actually created a vineyard, right? And to like verify that it was part of the papacy, they have the crown and keys on the wine bottles to this day. So the wine that you are drinking is basically like blessed by the Pope. So if you ever needed a reason to get a glass of wine, this is it. This is the place to go, and this is what you should do. Got it from my friends for Christmas. So we're going to San Francisco and we're doing a girls' day, and we're literally just going to drink this in the hotel room. And we're going to be like, but the Pope blessed it, because he did, right? Like, it has literally the like crown. And some of the people I gave it to have fallen in love with it, and we're like, how can we get it? And I said, we just have to go back. I mean, what excuse how am I to say no to someone who needs to experience that for themselves? Am I right? Anyways, if you ever do that area, even if it's not on a river cruise, it is an absolutely beautiful estate and one of those super unique things, and an absolutely wonderful wine. We did like 4 or 5 wine tastings, and it was the best wine on the river cruise, for sure. And I did take home 6 bottles of wine in my checked luggage, and none of them broke. I am willing to take the risk. I wrap it in my dirty clothes. I make sure it's all fully concased. And I did it from Sydney. I've done it from France. I've done it from Croatia. I've done it from a lot of places. It is not as scary as you think it is, but don't take my word for it, because if something happens, it's not my fault. It is not my fault. Okay, so here's where my honest advisor hat comes on, though. When it comes to the Rhone River, I have a couple of thoughts, and if I go on a squirrel, I apologize in advance. The Rhone River is slower paced than the Rhine and the Danube. There's a lot more sailing times and fewer like times in port. Personally, I loved it. I enjoy, and that's why I went on this trip, is I wanted it to be slower. You either had early mornings where you're just sailing down the river, watching everything go by, or afternoons doing the same thing. And so it was good for naps. They had cooking classes on board. We had mixology sessions. We went behind the bar. I did a little shimmy shake, and it was something fun. But this is not for everyone. Some people prefer a go, go, go sort of mentality, and this cruise is not for you. There are people who enjoy just relaxing and being on a cruise. They will enjoy the pace of this, to be able to have the mix of enjoying the ship and being able to explore off. Now, my biggest drawbacks. And this is where it gets nuanced. The Riverside ship I was on was originally not designed for the Rhone. It was primarily built for the Rhine and the Danube, and this matters. So, like the Douro, like the Seine, there are certain ships that are built for that region because of the locks are tighter, the bridges are shorter, and so like on the Douro, the ships only hold about 102 people. They can't sail at night, and they're smaller and compact, right? Same with the Seine. And why there's not a huge difference, which is why they're able to get away with it with having the ship on the Rhone, it did cause us to have some problems. Now, I'm going to preface by saying I and guests were restricted from the top deck about 80% of the time while sailing. I was not a big fan of this because, we weren't in locks all the times. We weren't going under bridges all the times. And if we were, it wasn't like it was one of those like super tight ones. So my frustration with Riverside, and something that I would tell them that I have talked to them about, but things that I don't know if it's just the timing I went. I would say that like with the French balconies being like, hey, we're going through this lock from 3 to 7. You can't open your window during that time. Or, hey, we're doing this at this time. Same with on the top deck. Like, we're between, 12 and 4. You can't be on the top deck because of how close everything is. Like, I don't want anyone to get injured, right? And I get that it's a lot of work for them to take everything down, re-put everything back up. But that's also part of, like, the customer experience. And so that was something that I wish we could have been able to be on the top deck, enjoying the beautiful weather, enjoying things of that nature. And I'm sure in your mind, you're like, well, Sydney, what about the other cruise ships that were doing it? As we were sailing by, you could see that there were people on top decks on other cruise lines, whether it was just like, hey, duck, which some of them have that philosophy. You can see a bridge coming, sign a waiver, you'll be good. But it's just one of those things that I recommend Riverside for the Rhine and for the Danube. For the Rhone, I am selective because I love the ship on board. I love the service on board. I love the food on board. If you are that foodie person, 100% recommend you doing it. But, well, also their back office requires a little bit more work than some of the other cruise lines, just because they are newer, they're getting up all of their stuff. So a travel advisor is definitely recommended when it comes to working with Riverside as well as with any of the other cruise lines. Now, but with the Rhone, I'd be selective on when you're going. Like if there is a typical time where it's going to be a high river, I wouldn't recommend it. So we were at the end of that season because we weren't ported. We didn't have to, we got through everything, but we couldn't do any, like a lot of the outdoor activities. And so that's something that I would think about, right? Now, when it comes to the reality of Riverside, I just want to let you know that Riverside knows that they have a premium product. They might be new on the market, but they are priced accordingly. Discounts are rare. Outside of the single supplement promo, 10% off is the best you'll get. I literally just saw it. It's 10% off for 2027 bookings, and that's just where it's at. So for example, I just had 7 girls go on the Rhine River Christmas Markets cruise with Riverside, and they had an absolute blast. Because another thing that Riverside does that's a lot of fun is their pianist becomes a DJ at night. It is so fun, and it is absolutely a ball. When I did it on my cruise, I actually asked for Fall Out Boy and just sang Dance Dance to my heart's content. Everyone else thought I was crazy. No one got it, but it made my millennial soul happy. And then we went back to doing, Dancing Queen, and actually my mom hates ABBA. But we did all the 60s and 70s disco classics. Anyways, I had a group of 7 girls. I had 5 originally who were going, and they got the 5 solo rooms. The 6th and the 7th, because they are all stay in separate rooms just because they like the space, had to pay double occupancy price, and they were joining 45 days before the cruise. So they are definitely strict on their pricing because they know the product that they have. There are only 3 ships that in their fleet, so availability is limited. They don't need discounts to fill their cabins, and it shows in their pricing. They do have a very confusing 4-price model. I will get into that more when we go over our overview of their product because it's not my favorite part of it, but I get that every person is different on what they want from a vacation and how they can have the best vacation for what they want. Now, my final verdict from going on Rhone, the Rhone River with Riverside. Do I recommend Riverside Cruises? Absolutely. As you can tell, I've already had clients come back and are booking next year. Would I book them again? Yes, but on the right river. The Rhine, the Danube, 100%. They have this fun golf trip that I'm just booking a couple in next year, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. The Rhone, maybe. I would have to be very selective on timing and expectations, making sure they're aware of the things that could go wrong on the trip, so that they aren't blindsided when they maybe can't go on the top deck, they can't open their window, and things of that nature. So it's just making sure that you're setting expectations, and that's something that a travel advisor is there to help with. Like if you had random questions about, can I bring this, can you bring that? That's what a travel agent is. We can make it easier for you to do those things, take the stress out of your next vacation so that you don't have to worry about it. We can talk about what you want from a trip, what days you're looking at, and how we can find you that best value. So, Riverside, I enjoyed it. I had so much fun. I still think about that trip, and I can't wait to do another one, to be truthfully honest. Just maybe not on the Rhone. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. As this is being filmed, I am headed to Egypt. So if you want to follow my Facebook and my Instagram, it is the Travel Advisor Sydney. Yeah, Travel Advisor Sydney at Facebook or Instagram. And I also have my Facebook group, River Cruising Masterclass. But to get the most up-to-date information, just add me as a friend or follow me on Facebook or Instagram. I would love for you to reach out and message me. I get so much joy when people tell me that they have listened to my podcast and that they enjoy it. And I hope that maybe I can help you with your next vacation. And if not, I hope you are enjoying these facts about my trips and learning about things as I research them for you. I hope you had an absolutely wonderful holiday season, and I cannot wait to hear more about what you did for your Christmas and New Year's and what you have planned for 2026.